أشرف الخلق والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the choicest of blessings and salutations upon our master Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So Dr. Bhuti rahimahullah ta'ala is taking us on this journey. He made us understand the greatest danger, and that it is our souls. He then spoke about the consequences of this danger in terms of the mischief and the trouble and the bloodshed and the greed and the robbing and all the evil that happens in the world and how it emanates from this greatest danger. And then he began with the remedy, emphasizing first and foremost that each and every one of us should acknowledge the problem. We should acknowledge that our souls require refinement. He then said that the essence of the remedy is two things: our identity as Muslims and our objective as Muslims. Our identity are that we are Allah's slaves. I am an abd of Allah. And if I am Allah's slave, I need to make sure that I do what my master wants of me, that I implement the commands of my master, and that I abstain from the prohibitions of my master. امتثال أوامر الله واجتناب نواهيه. And in addition to that, being a slave of Allah means I constantly and always exert myself in worshipping Him. And yesterday we expounded upon the person that exerts himself in worship until he reaches and pushes through that threshold, until he reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we quoted a number of examples in that regard. He also emphasized in yesterday's dars about the importance of turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer, in supplication and dua. One of the points he made that was read yesterday was that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in this manner that we are weak. Allah said, وَخُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man was created weak. Allah created us weak so that we will always have the sense of neediness to Allah. And thus Allah created us weak with an objective of assisting us in turning to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Realizing our insignificance, realizing our weakness, realizing that we constantly need to turn to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And therefore, it's important and essential that we always ask Allah and turn to Allah. And when Allah gives me tawfiq to do a good deed, then thank Him and ask Him that I am able to continue doing that good deed. The dua with regards to the remedy and my turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning to Allah in supplication is a very, very essential and important component. And for that reason, Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said that dua, turning to Allah in dua, is the essence of worship, mukhul ibadah, says Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And there's nothing more sweeter than dua. There's nothing more sweeter than speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Especially in your sajadat, in your prostrations. Speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, therein lies a sweetness that you don't find in anything else. And that in itself requires, in salah we are somewhat restricted. In the Shafi'i school, your dua, all your language spoken in salah must be Arabic. If I speak a foreign language in my salah becomes invalid. Right? If I make dua in English, I've heard sometimes people saying, make dua in your salah, whatever language, Allah understand all languages, but speaking a foreign language in my salah makes my salah batil. Right? So I need to speak in Arabic. But what I could do is, I can pray in a foreign language within my heart. As long as I don't utter the foreign language, my salah will remain intact and valid. But outside of salah, then the condition of Arabic is not the condition. One of the reasons why many people don't taste the sweetness of dua, and they don't really reach the essence of dua, which is communicating and speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is that especially in a community such as ours, it's often people, they memorize Arabic prayers. رَبَّنَا أَتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً رَبَّنَا تَقَبَّلْ مِنَّا. So we learn many Arabic du'as from a young age, and then our dua just becomes limited to to a handful of Arabic du'as that we don't even understand. So I don't get to experience what it means to talk to Allah. And therefore it's essential, while not within salah but outside of salah, that I speak to Allah in a language that I am comfortable with. Right? And the Prophet called that the essence of worship. And when you're speaking in a language that you're comfortable with, then you should, another thing in dua, you should never imagine that I shouldn't say something because Allah knows it already. No. Allah loves it for you to repeat yourself over and over again. Allah loves it when you are persistent, when you insist in your dua. Ilhah. Nabi Zakaria alayhi salatu wasalam in Surah Maryam. In our tahajjud this morning we recited Surah Maryam. There's very few faces I see here that I see in the morning here in the masjid with us for tahajjud. May Allah allow us to see more of these beautiful faces for tahajjud, inshallah. I mean, so Nabi Zakaria in Surah Maryam, he said that قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك ربي شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي آخرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب. He wants a son. He wants a son. And if he wants a son, he can say, Ya Rabb, grant me a son. Rabbi habli min ladunka waliya. That's the dua. Grant me a waliya bima'na, a son. But listen to how he speaks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He comes with the muqaddimah. And everything he mentions, Allah knows. But it's a lesson for you and I. How do we speak to Allah? Alright? Rabbi inni wahana al-'azmu minni. My bone structure has become weak, means I'm becoming an old man. I'm fragile. Wahana al-'azmu minni. I'm not going to live very long. Washta'ala ar-ra'su shayban. My head is full of grays. Right? So he's giving reasons why he needs a child. And then he adds, وَلَمْ أَكُمْ بِدُعَائِكَ رَبِّ شَقِيًّا. Right? He has full conviction that Allah answers prayers. He has full conviction that Allah answers prayers. The Prophet said, turn to Allah, ask Him, وَأَنْتُمْ مُوقِنُونَ بِالْإِجَابَةِ, believing that Allah is going to answer. Because a dua doesn't reach Allah and then is rejected. It may get accepted in a different way, but it doesn't get rejected. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة ولم أكن بدعائك وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي. And I fear that he was referring to nephews of his that won't be able to carry this mission of prophethood, of nubuwwah, of wasl al-khalq ma'al khaliq, connecting the creation to the creator Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They won't be able to do justice to this mission. And therefore I need a son that can continue this mission. And of course that son was who? Nabi Yahya alayhi salatu wassalam. وَلَمْ أَكْثِرِ رَبِّ مِنْ لَدُنْكَ وَلِيًّا يَرِثُنِي وَيَرِثُ مِنْ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ وَاجْعَلْهُ رَبِّي رَضِيًّا. Until eventually Allah gave him Nabi Yahya. But see how he made the dua. Now you and I need to learn from Nabi Zakaria. Ya Rab, send me for Umrah. Why must I send you for Umrah? It also comes to what Dr. Bhuti is going to be speaking about in today's dars, which is we need to start thinking. You can't just do things haphazardly. So, I want a car. Why do you want a car? Say, Ya Rabb, I'm sitting at home. I would love to be in the Rawha. I would love to be coming to the tahajjud program. But I don't have a car. There's no way for me to get to the masjid. Ya Rab, grant me a car. The difference between that dua and the dua, Allah grant me a car. So we need to learn how to communicate with Allah, how to speak with Allah. And even many of the Salaf Salih, even though you are permitted to ask Allah for things of this world, they were too shy to ask Allah for anything of this dunya. But you are allowed. And thus a person should learn to turn to Allah. If I broke Allah's law, if I was disobedient to Him, then say what you did to Allah with humiliation, with disgrace, with a heart that is broken, and acknowledging your faults in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, speaking it out, which is part of dua, will cause regret in your heart. And many a times it will bring you to tears, and it will cause you to break down. Ya Rab, I did such and such a thing. Ya Rab, I am guilty of this crime. Ya Rab, it was my weakness. Ya Rab, I was heedless of you, and I had the audacity to break your law, and I did X, Y, and Z. Ya Rab, I'm in need of your mercy. Ya Rab, what's going to happen to me if you don't show me mercy? What will my end result be? Where will I go? We need to learn how to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dr. Bhuti speaks about turning to Allah in supplication, because at the end of the day, everything comes from Allah. And the more we can show our state of neediness in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more Allah becomes pleased with us, and the more Allah gives. So, I want to gain victory over my nafs. Learn to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ask Allah to grant you and I victory over our nafs. One of the ways of supplication is for you to make dua for your brothers. Because when you make dua for your brother, what happens? Angels make dua for you. Therefore, it's important for brothers that are married never to make dua for the unmarried brothers. May Allah grant you a pious wife. Especially if your wife is present. Ya Rab. Making dua for your brother, ala dhahr al-ghayb, means angels make dua that Allah should grant to them. And you should have high hopes in the du'as of angels, because they are pure beings. So that's where Dr. Bhuti's discussion came to yesterday. And then today he started off the road to using this remedy. Allahu Akbar. So he said, what is the road to becoming dyed in the reality of slavehood to Allah alone, and thus one is not enslaved by wealth, rank and personal objective or any other bane of the soul, such as selfishness, pride, vanity, egoism and so forth. There is no doubt that it is not easy. It's not an easy, straightforward road. Rather, it is a jihad that Allah the Exalted commanded us to do when He said, Wajah. So this I spoke about. The jihad, the effort, the pushing, the exertion. Dr. Bhuti is mentioning it now, but I spoke about it yesterday. Right, I spoke about it yesterday. It's not an easy road. It's a path that must be traveled. And it's not supposed to be easy. Ala inna sil'atallahi ghaliya, said Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's not something that's cheap. It's not something that's inexpensive. It's something that holds high value. And we know if I want something of high value, I need to make effort. I need to strive. No. La ilaha illallah. So therefore the Salaf as-Salih, they went through great lengths in breaking down the nafs, striving against the nafs, exerting themselves in acts of worship. Yesterday we made several examples. We spoke about Ali Zain al-Abidin and Sayyidina al-Imam al-Fiqhi al-Muqaddam and Sayyidi Abu al-Hasan al-Shaduli. All of them used to pray 1,000 raka'at of salah every day. Some of them that suffered from the illness of greed and love for food, they used to fast excessively. Right? Tamam. However, Dr. Bhuti is now going to get into the means. You have to strive, you have to make effort, but now he wants to give you a number of points that you should keep in mind as you try to break through these barriers, as you try to suppress the nafs, as you try to purify the soul. And the first thing he mentions very interestingly is that man must contemplate his essence and his final destination. You have to make, I want to see what he calls it. This idea of contemplate, It could have several terms in Arabic. I just want to see what Dr. Bhuti actually says. Is Shaykh Shafi here? Aye? What does he call it? تفكر الإنسان في ذاته ومصيره. Pondering in your essence. Pondering in your essence. Where I come from. Who created me. Right? Looking into yourself. Everything within you points to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How you cannot see Allah? It's impossible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. Look into yourselves. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Can you not see Allah? Look into the creation of the human being. Look into your blood flowing in your veins. Look into your heart that is pumping 24/7 from the day your mother gave birth to you. Non-stop. Do you know of any pump that has been pumping? I don't want to share my age with you. I'm almost 40. So many years. It just goes. It doesn't stop. And some of us are 50, and some of us are 60, and some of us are 70. And the heart just goes. Have you ever seen man create anything like that? No solar powered, no ISCOM powered, no wind powered, no current powered. Powered by Allah. Powered by our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ. Look into yourselves. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Can you not see Allah? This type of reflection brings about clarity in your mind. It brings about clarity in your mind. He speaks a lot about thinking. Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that's exactly what the Prophet did. He entered the cave of Hira. He used to make tafakkur, he used to ponder and reflect in terms of his origin, in terms of where one comes from, in terms of where we are going, in terms of my purpose, in terms of why Allah placed me in this world. And if I don't think about it, I'm not reminded of it. And the more I think about it, the more I am reminded of it. Right? And it brings about clarity within my thinking, within my purpose, within my objective. So think. They described Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the Shama'il. They described him that كان رسول الله دائم الفكر متواصل الأحزان. His mind sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was constantly working. The Prophet sallallahu never had a mind that just, his mind was constantly working. In fact, the Arabs in general were mufakkir. They were people that thought a lot. Intelligent people. Right? As one of the reasons why, because of the thinking process all the time, as one of the reasons why Arabs used to drink, why alcohol was widespread among Arabs. Because if the mind is working, like I don't know, if you engage in da'wah and you're running projects and institutions and programs, right, it requires you to think a lot. Someone is running an organization, there's two things he does all the time, successfully. He thinks a lot and he delegates. He thinks a lot and he delegates. You can't run something successfully if you're not thinking all the time. So Arabs are like that, they're thinking, and therefore to get their minds to stop thinking, they used to drink. So it wasn't like the Arabs and alcohol, even though alcohol is prohibited and it's haram, but it's incorrect to understand from Arabs that they were like drunkards. Like in the West today, people just drink, alcoholics. They good for nothing alcoholics, right? That's basically what it is. The drinking of the Arabs were because of the excessive thinking. Now, ala kulli hal, it wasn't my intention to get into that, but thinking is something we need. We don't do, today people don't think. They don't think. I'm thinking of something that happened at our madrasa once, but I can't share it with you. But it relates to, it's actually Mullah Samir Saeed. I don't know if you know Mullah Samir Saeed. Like a teacher delivered a class, and when he was done with the class, a student, he said that, wow, subhanallah, how intelligent is the teacher. So Mullah Samir told him that that's not actually so amazing, man. You just dumb, you don't think. How often do I think? How often do I apply my mind? And the thinking that Dr. Bhuti is telling us to engage in here is thinking of who I am, why I am here, why has Allah created me? Where am I in my relationship with Allah? Where am I going? How am I reaching my destination? Right? And then this type of thinking or reflection, Imam Haddad actually details it very beautiful in his Risalatul Mu'awana, the book of assistance, where he gives you various types of reflection. Reflecting in Allah's majesty, reflecting in His power, reflecting in Allah's creation, reflecting in death, reflecting in the hereafter, different types of reflection, and he gives you the benefit of each type of reflection. So he says you should have a wird of reflection. A wird, the word wird means a daily dose of something. That's what the wird means. It's something that you do on a daily basis. So I have a wird of the Quran. My wird of the Quran is 1 juz every day. So my wird is 1 juz of the Quran. Right? That's what the word wird means, a litany. We translate them as litanies when they refer to a specific adhkar that you make on a daily basis. But the origin of the word wird means is your daily dose of a particular act. So he said you must have a wird of reflection. Some days ponder in Allah's creation, ponder in yourself, ponder in Allah's majesty, ponder in the shortness of this life. But here Dr. Bhuti is calling us to reflect in what? As a remedy for our souls, as a remedy for our nafs. Reflect in who you are. And why are you here? And why did Allah create you? And where are you going? Where are you going? Allah praised those who think when Allah said, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَفَكَّرُونَ, so that perhaps you may reflect. Allah said in other places, indeed, these are clear signs, لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ, for people that reflect or think. And Allah said, أَفَلَا تَتَفَكَّرُونَ, why do you not reflect and think? So Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used to think all the time. If the person that runs a successful organization, mind is always preoccupied and thinking, then what about Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that had the worry of the ummah? His thought the whole 24/7 was, how can he save humanity from a fire? And therefore, da'im al-fikr, his mind was always busy, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Mutawasil al-ahzan, there was always a sense of sadness on his face, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on account of worrying. Even though whenever you met him, he smiled. Whenever you met him, he smiled. Sahaba said, never did we see him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, say he smiled at us. No. Ya Allah. So where are we going? We need to ponder and reflect about the day when we meet our Lord, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We need to ponder and reflect about our death. Death is one of the important reflections that we should engage in. And death is something that we're not going to escape. And one of the benefits of reflecting on death, it tells me that there's urgency in bringing about change. There's urgency in bringing about change. You have two sorts of, you have astrology and then you have astronomy. Astronomy is the reading of stars, right? Someone that practiced astronomy said to a king one day that what is it? Astrology, isn't that the science? Astronomy is a science. So astrology, sorry. An astrologist, he said to a king one day that I've studied the stars and on such and such a day you're going to die through the bite of a scorpion. So the king waited for that day and he waited for the time, and when the time came when he was supposed to die, he walked into the river, covered himself completely in water where no scorpion can reach him. No. And then what happened? While he was standing in the water, he sneezed, and a small scorpion came out from his nostril and stung him. And he died. Death is not something you can't escape. Ma'ruf al-Karhi was one of the great awliya that lies buried in Iraq. Imam Dhahabi rahimahullah said about Ma'ruf al-Karhi that his grave is a tiryaq mujarrab. No du'as are made alongside his grave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say that those du'as are accepted. In general, making du'a alongside the graves of the salihin, these are places where du'as are accepted. Because Allah's mercy descends upon them. And when you're making du'a along this side, you're making du'a in a place where Allah's mercy descends. So he was with another scholar, Muhammad ibn Abi Tawbah. And Ma'ruf al-Karhi never used to lead the salah. He called the adhan and made iqamah. Never used to lead the salah. So he told Muhammad ibn Tawbah, Salli bina, lead the salah. So there was back and forth. So the Muhammad ibn Tawbah eventually said, I will lead this salah, but after the salah I will not lead another salah. So Ma'ruf al-Karhi reprimanded him and said to him, how do you enter salah thinking that you're going to be making another salah? Right? If you're reflecting in death, right, then you don't think about the next salah. Every salah you should imagine that this is my last prayer. And therefore they said a person that has hopes that he's still going to live very long, his actions are bad. So what if somebody tells you that you have 24 hours to live? Tomorrow at 5:55 you're going to die. How will your next day be? If an angel comes to you and tells you you're going to die at 5:55 tomorrow, 24 hours from now, are you going to miss Maghrib in Jama'ah? Are you going to leave out Salatul Awwabin after Maghrib? Are you going to miss your Taraweeh tonight? Are you going to miss your Tahajjud? Your Witr? Are you going to even sleep? Are you going to let minutes go by? Are you going to miss Fajr in congregation? Are you going to miss Salatul Duha? How are you going to spend your last 24 hours? Imam Haddad, I think it's in the Book of Assistance, he says that one of the Salihin said that if an angel was to come to me to tell me that you're going to die in 24 hours, my day is already so full I won't be able to do one extra thing. I won't be able to do one extra thing if an angel tells me I'm going to die in 24 hours. What I'm already doing in my 24 hours, I won't be able to do anything else. One of the Habib from the Aidarus family, may have been Imam al-Aidarus himself, or one of his offspring, before Ramadan entered, he used to call his children. He used to say that, what are you going to do this Ramadan? I said, I'm going to read an X number of khatams. What are you going to do? I'm going to finish the study of a book. What are you going to do? And everyone says what extra they're going to do in Ramadan. And when his children told him what they were going to do, he would be burst out crying and crying. And he said, how I wish there were more hours in the day. Ramadan is entering, but my day is already packed to capacity. I can't do anything more in Ramadan because all my time is already used for ibadah. Imagine. I can't do anything extra because it's already, there's nothing more that I can do with the time that the day allows me. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. So Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam encouraged us to reflect, specifically in death. Al-Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, this is also something, one of the masail that people, I see as common that we say, walking with the staff is from the sunnah. Right? I've seen people locally also walking with staffs, but the walking with the staff is not from the sunnah. The staff is a sunnah when I'm traveling. If I'm a musafir, a traveler, then it's sunnah for me to have a staff. But when I'm a resident, it's not sunnah to have a staff. Tamam? However, Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah ta'ala, when he reached the age of 40, he began keeping a staff with him daily, even as a resident. So they asked him, Ya Imam Shafi'i, why are you walking around with a staff and you're not traveling? So he said that I've reached the age of 40 I now keep a staff with me so I can remind myself that I'm now starting to travel to Allah. So I am on a journey. I'm on a journey to Allah. Rabi ibn Khaytham used to dug a grave. Many of the pious predecessors dug graves within their homes. Right? And to remind themselves about death, they would often go in their graves and spend time in their graves. Rabi al-Adawiyya, she built a grave. And she used to often go into a grave and recite Quran in a grave. How many khatams did she make? Who knows? See if we can search it. Right? She used to regularly descend the grave just to recite the Quran. That is someone that is reflecting, who am I? I'm a slave. What's my objective? Worship Allah. How far have I reached? How much time do I have left on this earth? Am I going to be successful? Am I not going to be successful? And the more I reflect and think about these things, the more I will improve my doings, my actions. The more my soul will improve, the more my nafs will improve. Fudayl ibn Iyad, a man comes to him. Fudayl ibn Iyad was one of the big Sufis of the past. He was known as Abid al-Haramain, the worshipper of the two harams. A man comes to him. The man says to him, Ya Shaykh, give me advice. Awsini. So Fudayl looks at him and says to him that, has your father died already? So he said, yes. So Fudayl told him, get away from me. A person who lost his father and still need admonishment after that, what's going to benefit him? Ajib. No admonishment is going to benefit the person who lost a father and didn't receive enough admonishment in that to turn his life around. Those who lost fathers, may Allah put nur in their qabrs and make their graves gardens of Jannah. And those of us who still have our parents, mothers and fathers with us, may Allah grant them long lives in the obedience of Allah. And may what remains of their lives be the best of their lives. And may Allah allow us to be in their service and in their khidmah for what remains of their lives. And may they not leave this world say that they are pleased with us. If your parents leave this world and they are pleased with you, it means that Allah is pleased with you. Rida al-Rabbi fi rida al-Walid. Allah's pleasure and being pleased with you is when your parents are pleased with you. The father and the mother as well. Allahu Akbar. So reflect, Dr. Booty is saying, reflect. Allah make us from those who reflect and those who think. And that's something we need to take time out for. Qasim, Bismillah. Qasim completed his 20th juz of the Quran today. Quickly.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Etiquette of the Quran, page 23. Between lessons, the student's etiquette includes his determination to study incessantly, doing so anytime the opportunity arises. He is not satisfied with a little when much is possible, yet he does not burden himself with what is overbearing to him out of fear of boredom and losing what he has gained. This varies according to different people and conditions. If the student reaches the place where the Shaykh usually sits and does not find him there, he waits patiently for him and stays close to his door. The student does not skip his daily lesson unless out of concern that the Shaykh has an aversion to a given lesson for some reason, since he knows the Shaykh's preference for being read to at one time and not another. If he finds the Shaykh sleeping or occupied with something important, he does not seek permission to enter. Instead, he waits until the Shaykh awakens or completes his tasks. Otherwise, he simply departs. It is better to be patient, just as Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma and others were. The student should take it upon himself to strive hard to achieve all he can while he is free of responsibility and energetic, the body strong, mind alert and occupied by few things before the hurdles of heroism and high rank come. The commander of the faithful, Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anh, has said, "Become learned faqih before you become a master," meaning strive to attain complete competence while you are subordinates before you become masters. When you become masters with a following of students, you will be prevented from further learning because of your high rank and numerous preoccupations. This is the meaning of Imam al-Shafi'i's statement, Allah be pleased with him, "Become a faqih before you become a leader, since when you are a leader there is no path to becoming a faqih." When to study. The student should make his recitation with the Shaykh early at the beginning of the day, because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "O Allah, bless my nation in its earliness." The student should be mindful to recite what he has memorized. He should not give someone else his turn, since it is offensive to give preference to someone else when it comes to deeds that draw one close to Allah, although it is recommended to give such preference when it comes to personal interests. If the Shaykh sees advantage in preferring certain times over others because of a legal reason and he alludes to it, his order should be followed. Treating envy and pride. A student is obliged and is highly advised to heed that he not harbor envy towards his peers, or anyone else for that matter, because of some good quality that Allah the Generous has given one. Likewise, the student should not wax proud over what he himself achieves. We explained before that this is also part of the teacher's etiquette. The way for the student to remove pride is by remembering that his achievement did not occur through his own power and strength, rather it was only through Allah's grace. As such, the student should not be proud of something he did not produce, something that Allah Most High placed in him. The way to remove envy is to know with certainty that it was the wisdom of Allah Most High that brought a good trait to a person. So one should never object to it, nor should one dislike wisdom that Allah Most High willed, and thus he himself did not dislike.
Now, from the etiquette of the student is that he should be eager to study. And he should spend all his free time in the acquisition of knowledge. And he should not be satisfied with a little when he is capable of receiving more. At the same time, he should not cause himself he should not take upon himself that which he cannot bear. And that was the Salaf, the acquisition of knowledge. One of the challenges of the world today is how knowledge is diminishing. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith that إن الله لا يقبض هذا العلم انتزاعا من قلوب الناس. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala won't remove knowledge from the world in such a way that you have ulama and scholars and Allah removes it from their chest. Right? لكن الله يقبض هذا العلم بقبض العلماء. Allah will remove knowledge from the lands by making qabd of the ulama. And the common meaning and interpretation of qabd al-ulama is that the ulama will die, and when they die with knowledge, and then there's less knowledge left on the face of the earth. Habib Abu Bakr, our Shaykh Habib Abu Bakr Mashhur al-Adani, rahimahullah tabaraka wa ta'ala, his interpretation of this hadith was different. He said qabd al-ulama, one meaning of qabd al-ulama is that knowledge will be removed by what? By ulama dying. That's a possible meaning, and it's there and it exists and it's true. But it says qabd al-ulama also refers to qabd al-ilm. And what qabd means is to restrict something. Knowledge will become restricted. Right? And he said that if you look at the scholars of the past, Shaykh al-Qadir al-Jailani, by way of example, he sits in the madrasa of his teacher and he studies with his teacher for something like 25 to 30 years before his teacher gives him one place to start teaching a class. Right? The teacher had the dars like in the main area, and then eventually after 20 odd years, first of all, Shaykh al-Qadir studied elsewhere. And this is some of the untold stories of Shaykh al-Qadir Jailani is how he was a student of deen and knowledge and sat in classes for years, in and out, Today people's understanding of Shaykh al-Qadir Jilani, big waliullah, and we love all the Rawha stories and his miracles, and there's no wali that there's been documented so many miracles like Shaykh al-Qadir Jilani. And most of those miracles, there's nothing within our tradition that tells us you can't believe them. Like, he was an amazing saint. But it's often that we ignore the mujahada part that we're speaking about, the effort part, the sacrifice part, the years that he spent at the feet of his teachers. And he was amazing because Shaykh al-Qadir Jilani, when his teacher eventually gave him a place to teach, like maybe somewhere outside, his class grew so much and grew until eventually he took the seat of his teacher, and the madrasa he was teaching in became too small, and they had to expand it once and they had to expand it twice, and tens of thousands came to attend his classes, rahimahullah ta'ala. But how long did he study? 20, 30, 40 years. The ulama of the past, there was no title, Shaykh, Maulana, right? Today also, with respect, we have the Mufti title that goes around. You attend a course for an additional year or two, you complete the Mufti course, now you... I don't say that with the deepest of respect for other systems, but how is it that knowledge has become so? How is it that ulama would study for 20 years in the past, and then they may be called a sheikh, they may not even be called a sheikh? No title wasn't important. If a person eventually makes it his life and engages in teaching regularly and so forth and so on, then they become known as ulama. But it was a long journey of study. And with the passing by of years, that 30 years of study became 20 years, and 20 years became 10 years. And now what? Now somebody can go to university and study for 4 years, and is a sheikh, or is a scholar. You have people that attend programs for 2 years. Somebody just spent 1 year in Egypt, or in Saudi, or Yemen, or wherever it may be, and he's a scholar. And Habib Abu Bakr says this is qabdul ilm. When you can go and attend the program for a year or 2 or 3 and graduate as a scholar. And then not only do you graduate as a scholar, you get the title. And not only do you hold the title, now you almost demand respect from everyone else because you are a Maulana or a Shaykh, whatever the title is that you wish. Where is the idea of studying for years? In Dar Mustafa, in Yemen, the full program is about 10 years. But the full program in Dar Mustafa is about 10 years. When you graduate there after studying for 10 years, if you're from the Ahlul Bayt, they will honor you now and they call you As-Sayyid Fulan. Right? If you're not from the Ahlul Bayt, after graduating after 10 years, they say, now you are Talibul Ilm. You are now a student of knowledge. And when you start doing khidmah within communities and teaching and writing out answers and what have you, eventually people honor you and respect you, and you may get the title of Shaykh so and so. But it's, how can, subhanallah, people today become part of a fraternity of ulama and they studied absolutely nothing. They did a year course somewhere, or they did some online course. Some don't even study, they memorize the Quran, which means you know nothing of deen, you just know the Quran, but now you're a sheikh. And that Hafiz, who is not really a sheikh, starts imagining that he is a sheikh. So tomorrow when a student comes to class, I know this young huffaz that are teaching hifz, that hasn't studied deen. They tell the students, you mustn't go to the mawlud, or you mustn't go to the khadat. That's an innovation. Or you mustn't do this, or be careful about that. Where did you study anything to want to pass comments about the ulama and the shuyukh and the mashayikh that have been studying for years? And that's all part of choosing proper teachers for our students. So the idea is study, spend years, sit at the feet of the scholars. The city of Tareem is such an amazing example. One of my teachers, I consider him one of my teachers, Shaykh Umar Hussain Khatib. He's a faqih. he said Ahmad al-Kaf, said Ahmad's teacher as well. His knowledge of fiqh in general and the Shafi madhab specifically is like remarkable. Right? You don't see such knowledge. And it's like, they're just very casual. If you take someone like Umar Hussain Khatib and you put him in any other country, he'll be considered to be like the greatest allama that country has seen. But in Tarim, there's so many great scholars that everyone just sort of gives preference to everyone else. But he's like a jurist, like you cannot imagine. But still, after studying among all these mashayikh and studying texts for probably 15, 20 years, and now he's teaching, you still see him sitting in the front row of Habib Umar's classes. Another Shaykh Umar Hussain, the Khatib in the Jami of Tarim, also every class they sit. And they come with books and with pens. That thin Shaykh Umar Hussain, he writes down everything that comes from the teacher. Like their thirst for knowledge just goes on and on. There's no. Today I studied a bit here and there, so now, khalas, no. I can't sit in someone else's class. I want to have my own class. Everyone starts their own dars now. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So be desirous of knowledge. Al-Imam Nawawi said that إِنَّ الْإِشْتِغَالَ بِالْعِلْمِ مِنْ أَفْضَلِ الطَّاعَاتِ. Occupying yourself for the acquisition of knowledge is the most virtuous form of worship. مِنْ أَفْضَلِ الطَّاعَاتِ وَأَوْلَى مَا أُنْفِقَتْ فِيهِ نَفَائِسُ الْأَوْقَاتِ. And it is the best way for you to spend your most precious time. It's the best way for you to spend your most precious time. So he said, be desirous to increase in knowledge. That's the point he made. And if you come to the majlis of the Shaykh and the Shaykh is not there, then wait. How many times you went, you said, the teacher's not there, khalas. Teacher's not there. In fact, you try to leave as quick as you can. So in case the Shaykh asks, where were you? Sit, but you weren't there. Wait, they say the teacher's not there. Wait for the teacher. You're the one that's in need, not the teacher. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala, when Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam left this world, he went to a friend of his. He told his friend, many of the senior Sahaba are alive. We must go to them and collect from them all the hadith they heard from Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So his friend said, why do you want to do that? They have the knowledge. If people need it, they can go to them. Why do you want to amass all that hadith? So he went. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas used to go to the house of the senior Sahaba, and if they are asleep, the doorstep, he used to put his head on the doorstep and make it his pillow, and he would sleep on the doorstep. And he said there were days when the wind would blow and the sand would cover him. He would be covered in soil. Until the Sahabi comes out of his door and he sees Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas lying there. And they would become upset. They would say, Ya ibn Ammi Rasulullah, the nephew of Rasulullah at my doorstep, why didn't you tell me? I would have come to you to narrate this hadith to him. You're the Prophet's nephew. Right? You're from the Ahlul Bayt. What are you doing on my doorstep? Ajib. Some of the Sahaba, despite their old age, they used to kiss the hand of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas just because he's the nephew of Rasulullah. He kissed the hand of a senior Sahabi one day, and when he was on his horse, the Sahabi kissed his feet. The Sahabi asked him, why did you kiss my hand? He said, because we've been ordered to show respect to our scholars and our seniors. And then when he kissed his feet, he said, why did you kiss my feet? He said, the Sahabi said, thus we were commanded to show respect to the family of Rasulullah. Now, so, Sidi, what's it now? Wissam Hussain. Wissam was invited with me this evening somewhere. No. So you can, I don't know if he wants to go home, you can take him home and then I can pick him up at his BT if he stays. It's easier for me. No. So, if you don't, wait at the door of the Shaykh. However, if the Shaykh doesn't want you to sit at his door and wait for you, then you shouldn't do it. Alright? If the Shaykh doesn't want you to sit at his door, then don't do it. Allah grant us to have hirs, desire for ilm and knowledge. You know, now we made a lot of points that we got carried away in the first point and our time is up. But Allah make us true students of knowledge. Grant us himmah and drive and thirst for ilm. Our Shaykh Munata Karan, rahimahullah ta'ala, had he had like his thirst for knowledge was ajib and insatiable. He only knew ilm. Whenever you met him, on every occasion, he would discuss something related to ilm. Something in hadith, something in fiqh, something in aqidah. That was his life. As long as I knew him, for the many years that I knew him, and many years, I'm speaking about what? Over 20, 25 years, ilm. He spent his nights reading till late night. I would just receive messages from Mona sometimes after midnight. Something he read, something he found, some naql he was looking for. Allah grant us such thirst. Once you get the thirst for ilm, for knowledge, nothing will quench it. So you will use all your time to increase in knowledge. Allah. Like people have quenched for other things, for nonsense. So they can't get enough of soccer, of games, of Allah grant us that thirst. Allah put nur in the qabr of Munata rahimahullah. Munata inspired us. He was a teacher that inspired his students to want to do better and more. ربنا انفعنا بما علمتنا رب علمنا الذي ينفعنا رب فقهنا وفقه أهلنا
وقرابة لنا في ديننا مع أهل الكفر أنثى وذكر رب وفقنا ووفقهم بما تقتضي قولا وفعلا كرما وارزق الكل حلالا دائما وآخذ أنبياء علما
نهضى بالخير ونكفى كل شر
ربنا واصلح لنا
كل شؤون وأكر بالرضا منك العيون
واقض عنا ربنا كل الديون قبل أن تأتينا رسل منون واغفر استر أنت أكرم من ستر وصلاة الله تغشى المصطفى من إلى الحق دعانا والوفاء في كتاب فيه للناس شفاء وعلى الآل الكرام شرفاء وعلى الصحب المصابيح الغرر اللهم اهدنا بهداك واجعلنا ممن يسارع في رضاك ولا تولنا وليا سواك ولا تجعلنا ممن خالف أمرك وعصاك وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم يا ربنا اعترفنا